We are recording. We are recording. Thank you, everybody. This is the Battery Park City Committee, Community Board One. I welcome all of you here and all of you online. I think we have a quorum, and we have a quorum. So we have several items on the agenda. The first two relate to security. We've had a number of comments, questions, and sometimes complaints about security all over Lower Manhattan, maybe even all over the city. And because Battery Park City has kind of a unique security situation with Battery Park City Authority and Brookfield providing private security for most of the neighborhood, we thought it would be a good idea to have both Brookfield and Battery Park City here to discuss security. And we also, with respect to Battery Park City, the authority has an RFP out for the contract for basically the next 5 years for the security the CA provides. And so this would be, we thought it was a good time for the community to sort of voice what our priorities are for security and hope that they can be incorporated into the new contract. And so we will discuss that as well. We have Bill Wickstrom from Brookfield here, and I guess you're first up to discuss security at Brookfield, and you feel free to come to the table. These meetings are hybrid, and so there's people that participate remotely, and the microphones and cameras are in these little owls that are on the conference room table, and so they're supposed to automatically point to whoever's talking or making noise. So if you could speak into the owl and introduce yourself and describe what Brookfield does as far as security.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me. Bill Wickstrom. I'm the Senior Director of Security for Brookfield Properties operated by CBRE, here representing Brookfield. Been with Brookfield now a little over 4.5 years, probably give or take. Spent 22 years with the FBI here in New York before joining Brookfield. So I oversee their all of their New York commercial assets here in the New York AOR, and cover, again, Brookfield Place, that we're speaking specifically. Brookfield Place, we have, I think we have a very robust security posture down there, kind of layered security kind of approach. We run 3 tours, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, with, both unarmed and armed security staff, depending upon different times of the day. Again, we have exterior roving patrols, we have interior roving patrols, we have static posts. On the day tour, I typically have probably close to 30 officers just on our shared areas, kind of that are controlling our, if you're familiar with Brookfield, the interior space, we kind of look at the shared area space and the retail space, as well as the exterior patrol, which encompasses the checkpoint at the North End Ave Vesey Street checkpoint. So all of our vehicles are screened coming into the facility. Again, it's a very kind of dynamic. We run it very much like a typical kind of precinct kind of orientation. I have a director of security that runs our shared areas oversight, and then I have supervisors and then staff on down. Each building is also controlled by a security director and an independent security staff. So we have turnstiles, access control, cameras. I have over 450 cameras across the complex. We run a joint operations security center that's 24/7. So that is kind of the hub of our security function. And all our cameras feed in, all our alarms feed in, all of our communications comes from the JSOC Operations Center to our team as need be. We are We work with mostly Allied Security is within 2 of our buildings, and Mulligan Security covers the remainder. They are third-party vendor contractors. Like I said, we've got a variety of other things that we do. We've recently incorporated some new AI technology into our camera software for certain threat indicators that give us situational awareness, a variety of things that we're looking for. As you know, Brookfield Place is a public-private location, open 24/7, allowed access. We do have rules and regulations that are posted for people visiting and certain requirements for the space itself, but it is accessible 24/7.
And how many of your security personnel, if any, are peace officers able to make arrests and issue summons?
We're not, I do incorporate and I do hire former police officers. We are not, we're not obligated or required or able to make, arrests. We are able to issue trespass notices and a variety of different things. We work closely with the First Precinct. We work closely with the World Trade Center, NYPD Command, that provides assistance when we need to. But we're not able to make arrests for, we are able to detain individuals if we're calling 911 for a NYPD response.
I see. So if somebody were to get out of hand and become violent or whatever, you're able to detain that person?
Yes.
And sort of quell the situation, and then I guess your protocol would be to call 911.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Did you say they were armed?
We have a component that we do deploy as a part of our security posture, yes.
If you ever received a call of violence or something like that, that unit would go out?
Yes, so again, it's something that we, yes, we do have, and they are designed to be responsive to a threat to life, situation, a threat of violence.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, we'll take questions from committee members first. I see we have Justine with her hand raised. Justine? You're on mute.
Sorry, I put my hand down, but I didn't take myself off mute. Thank you. So first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for coming and talking with us. This is wonderful. One question. So you said you've got armed security forces or personnel, but they're not special police officers, correct? They're different. What is their what is their authorization to be armed? Or if it's possible to explain that.
So they are licensed in the city and the state of New York to provide that level of security. We put them through training twice a year for requirements of the state, and they do carry their HR 218 certifications for their ability to carry and or perform that function.
Okay, and it's different than the special police officers, or correct me if I'm saying it wrong, that Allied Universal hired by the BPCA. They're different entities, right? They're not authorized by the New York City Police. Is that correct? Or it's a different category?
Yeah, different category. They are private security entities, yes.
Okay, no, sorry about that. You're educating me, so thank you. That's my questions are based on that. And then I just have one more. You mentioned Allied Universal. Are they a subcontractor of you, or you were mentioning them as security in the area?
No, so we have 2 different vendors in Brookfield Place. Allied Security covers the tower for 225 Liberty, and Allied Security covers the tower for 250 Vesey Street on the interior of the tower. Mulligan Security covers the exterior and the other locations.
Mulligan. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
And the exterior, and then I assume the Winter Garden and the other public areas?
The Winter Garden, the shade area is 200 Liberty, 300 Vesey. Yes.
All right, thank you so much. And I appreciate that. I just have to say welcome back to Patrick behind you. I just saw him walk in, so hello.
Hey.
Hey, sorry about that interruption, but yes. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I was about to say, I forgot to introduce all of us. I know many of us know one another, but some of you do not. That was Justine Kucha. She is one of the co-chairs of the committee. I'm Jeff Galloway, I'm the chair. Eric Flores here is another co-chair. We have Sarah Cassell here in the room on the committee, and I see online we have Eddie Kay, Gabriella, who I can't see, Marion Braverman, any other committee members? No, I guess that's it. I have a question about the, sort of the borderline between where your jurisdiction for patrol is and where Battery Park City Authorities is. But can you explain it? I mean, I understand the insides of buildings, but I know there's some exterior areas where you all patrol as well.
So we basically, I think we, from West Street down Vesey to 300 Vesey, North End Ave. At South, then there's a division between where Battery Park City kind of has their ownership piece. And then it kind of comes back towards the Winter Garden, the Marina area. And then again, we kind of follow the perimeter of the plaza and then towards the exterior lines of the building itself, the building perimeter, of each facade. So I don't go too much beyond that point, other than the marina. We do cover the marina area as well, for security situations that, on both ends.
And you operate the security barrier at Liberty Street as well?
We do have control of that wedge barrier at the street as well, yes.
And how about the ramp? Is that an area you control, or does in Battery Park City, the Liberty ramp?
The ramp itself is Battery Park City. We do have our patrols that walk there. Generally cover that space anyways. The oval lawn that is there is part of Brookfield. We do kind of cover that space, so it's really just adjacent to. So we're in the area. We kind of cover it as need be anyways.
I see. So you may have some security questions. This is, Brookfield Security.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Really. I'm Jill Goodkind.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. I'm the person who
Yes.
was attacked in the Winter Garden.
Yes, I'm so sorry about that.
Yes. So during this attack, there was no security at all. The attack took place over several minutes. Security didn't come for at least 5 minutes, if not longer. There are many, many unhoused people who set up, as they have every right to do. Some of them are mentally ill, as the person who attacked me was. I'm very concerned about the security that you have once the stores and the vast majority of workers are gone. The people who use that facility at that time are often, probably most often, local residents coming home, walking through. The fact that you have such a large, and it was a very large number of people set up for hours there, who obviously are unhoused. And you have no security there, feels like a big fail to me. The second thing was when I was being physically spit on and threatened with death and chased, there was no security at all. Yeah. And we're talking, and I'm sure you've looked at the video footage, I haven't seen it, but you can see the time lapse from when this woman started verbally accosting me to when she chased after me to when she physically attacked me. How could there be no security?
Well, I will say, I did go back and we looked at the incident. There was security positioned in the Winter Garden towards the west wall, where they stand in between the escalators typically. There was 2 security.
When you say by the west wall, you're talking about where you go to the PATH train?
No. I'm sorry, the west side. So the opening of the Winter Garden, west wall where the escalators come
You
down.
would go up to Hudson East
Hudson East, there was a security officer there.
and,
And there was 2 security officers at the escalators on
No.
the pavilion side.
talking about PATH train? No, there were 0.
Well, okay,
They were not there. They came running as I was leaving several minutes. So as I'm being attacked, over the course of 5 minutes? Why was there no security
Well, I think it,
coming?
again, we went back and looked at the incident.
Yeah.
Again, I understand the dynamic that you were in, and again, I apologize, we try to make sure that everybody that comes and visits is protected. We reduce our staff, in the overnight hours. It was about 11:20 in the evening, when it happened. I still have staff on site. We do have roving patrols. It is a large complex. We do have staff. I have probably close to 20 people on the shared area staff. We do transition our staff at 11 o'clock. So the supervisor was rolling people out at that point. There was people positioned and assigned. It was, looking at the time frame, it was less than probably 2 minutes when there was another group of younger individuals that went to security and said, there's a woman that's being assaulted.
At that point, 5 minutes
Thank
had already passed.
Yeah,
So if there was security later while I was being attacked, why did those young people have to go get someone to come to, my aid? It was too late at that point.
yeah. And as you transited through the winter garden,
She was cursing, I'm gonna kill you, I'm not playing, I'm gonna kill you, screaming very loudly at me. And the security officer did not do anything.
Well,
If I didn't see him
I will-
or her.
I will follow up again. I think, again, it's one of these situations
And
where
then after,
we're always trying to make
Okay.
sure that we have people in place to make
Yeah.
sure that.
you didn't have anyone who acted, okay? Apology is nice, and I appreciate that very much, but I think the safety and security of, our community clearly is an issue. The fact that you say there was security there, I'm being attacked verbally for some time, then physically, and still no one came until young people had to go run and try to find someone, and then it was another 2 minutes. Shows an incredible lack of security coverage when you have a space filled with, people just clearly using it. And one of whom was clearly having mental issues. I know the following week, your security guards were attacked by another person having mental issues, correct?
And we are facing this problem regularly.
How could you not have appropriate security, then if you know this is an issue?
I think we do have appropriate security. I think we have more than robust security for the complex. We pride ourselves on, the security posture that we have there. We have.
That I was under attack for 5 minutes?
Jill, I think we.
Okay, yeah, but I'm
And I-
asking you,
again,
Joe,
I-
you do not in the evening hours, in my opinion, have appropriate security to considering the population that you have there at night. And if you had a security guard watching this who did nothing,
Well, that will be another situation that I will address. If there was somebody that did not respond, we will make sure that we address that accordingly. But, so going back into reviewing the video footage, I'm able to locate individuals that were stationed there. I have individuals that were stationed up at the pavilion area. The time frame of their response, I think, was less than what was.
well, you told me that, once, this was after I was spit on and she had come at me. It took 2 minutes after that, this whole incident had been going on for several minutes before that, so I'm not gonna argue over minutes, but I still feel very strongly, I will not walk through there at night now. That you do not have, or they're not trained. If you have a certain population, I think you have a responsibility to have security that is alert and able to handle those situations. In a way, I'm glad it happened to me and not someone else, because as someone in the community who speaks up, I can address this, but I do feel that is not a satisfactory answer.
We'll take it back and we'll reconsider whether or not we feel that we need to add additional security. We'll speak with Brookfield itself, the leadership, but again, I know that we pride ourselves on the amount of security that we bring forth.
Yeah, during the day, but I'm saying in the evening.
Again,
Jill, let's not just.
I think it's- we can talk now.
And, I think what, I'd like to understand a little bit more, because it really transcends just Brookfield, because we have a similar issue in Battery Park City as a whole, but, Nick and Pat are here. What is your, I mean, there's obviously a problem in the city with mentally ill people, unhoused people around. You can't just go out and lock them all up just because they look like they're homeless, and we're certainly not advocating for that. But what can you do to proactively deal with the potential of mental illness and safety issues for others when you have large numbers of unhoused people in your property or on the, I'm asking this as a question because I don't know what the solution is, but what's your approach to
Well,
that?
again, it is a public accessible, public-private space. We do have rules and regulations that we set forth and that are posted. We try to make sure that we are addressing those that are potentially causing issues ahead of time. We have identified individuals that come onto site on a regular basis. We have what we call BOLOs. Our security staff is well aware of those individuals that come on. If they're not breaking a rule of Brookfield policy and procedures, we're limited on the idea of, I just said, kind of moving, doing anything with those individuals until such time as they are in violation of a rule. At that point, our security then typically will try to manage them and move them off site. If things escalate, we're able to call 911, and we do on a regular basis. We address those situations directly on those one-off type things that happen.
Do you work with any of the social services providers to be able to refer people to social services or shelters?
On many occasions, we will work with the first precinct and law enforcement to do just that, as they're the ones that will take the lead on those type of actions.
We have a question from Justine that I think is a follow-up to yours. Justine, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it is a follow-up to what Jill was saying. Basically, from listening to all this and also listening to other incidents that have occurred, whether it's on Brookfield property or in Battery Park City parks or whatever, it seems as if staffing seems to come up. And it's interesting that Jill identifies, and you staff down at night, less people are there. I suppose that my ask of Brookfield, and this has been my ask of the Battery Park City Authority and Allied Universal, is to increase the staff. I know that from many back and forth with Pat Murphy, he's been saying, I can't tell you how much staff I have, it's security reasons. I don't care. But we may want to be getting specific people assigned to specific places with the understanding that even in Brookfield, you've got folks that are working there and they're working late hours. So you're not just protecting the neighbors and the people in the neighborhood. You're protecting the workers in Brookfield, which I think would be something that Brookfield Place as an operator would be concerned with. But I'm very heartened and gladdened to hear you say, and for Jeff to have acknowledged, and Jill too, the homeless people or houseless people are entitled to be in that space. It's a public space. So having them moved on just because they're there is not proper. But as you do know who is, you said you've got bolos that go out when people come in, and there are people who are going to be potentially a problem. They're the ones that need to be watched, and they're the ones that need to be given perhaps a conversation to say, you are more than welcome to stay here, but if you start acting up or bothering people who are coming through, that's going to be a problem. And if they understand those kind of things, again, some people are not able to have that conversation or they're not in the space at that time. But I'd like us to be a community and a space where we make room for people who are mentally challenged while also protecting them, our neighbors and our friends and their workers and everything else too. So I like the balance that's being sought and struggled for, but I think maybe one way to address it is more people. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with, we do put eyes on individuals that, come onto the property that we are aware of that may be concerning. We kind of, not only through our cameras, we, personally cover them. Like I said, on the overnight hours, I have approximately 30 security officers that cover the shared area space. You talk about the tenants and the facility is open 24/7. We have additional security that covers each of the towers and the responsibility of the towers itself. So the 30 people are not just to cover the entire complex. Each tower has their own security staff that covers the overnight hours as well. So I probably have close to 60 security officers that cover the entire Brookfield place on the 11 to 7 overnight hours. So
And is there someone stationed outside as well? I mean, or at least having eyes outside, you know, in the North Cove Marina? I know that's not exactly, certainly in the freezing cold, people aren't out there. But as someone who lives there, someone who has children who come through at all hours of the night, it's nice to know that there's people watching and that there's somebody around as you walk through, you know, so.
I do have exterior patrols that cover the plaza and the marina area. There's 2 assigned to the overnight hours. They're typically wearing the high visibility yellow jackets for visibility. We also have a security supervisor that roams the facility throughout the evening. I have a supervisor at the north end checkpoint, as well as security officers at the checkpoint, because the facility and the parking facility is open 24/7. So yes, we do an exterior patrol, you know, on a regular basis to make sure the exterior itself is being protected as well.
And I assume that that's staffed up from those, you know, when the weather is warmer outside.
That is, where we maintain our security posture unless the weather is that extreme, where we would pull them into the interior to keep, you know, from the winter garden, keep an eye on the plaza, but typically they are out, you know, 365. Even
Right.
in the winter, we put them outside, we put umbrellas up. If you walk through that plaza, you can see that
Of course.
we have umbrellas up and we have stationed to keep them, you know, in a position away from the sun. And try to, you know, again, we try to make sure that our people are protected from the weather, but we do have people on the exterior 24/7.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, you want to follow up?
Yeah, before I get to my question, I strongly suggest working perhaps with a homeless outreach group instead of always calling the police if you need to, obviously, but there's other ways to help people. No one in this community wants to see people thrown out in the cold. So I think that there may be alternative approaches you can take. So my follow-up question is, how, you said certain people, you know, often pose problems, or you keep your eye on certain people. How many incidents have you had of any kind, not reported to the police or not, in the past 6 months?
I have to go back and look. We, you know, and again, we have incidences that raise to what we would do an incident report on. But we also have situations where, you know, an individual that comes in and is, you know, potentially an issue or has caused a problem that our security staff addresses and, you know, again, moves those individuals along so that they're not disruptive and in violation of our rules. So it varies. We're on a daily basis, we're dealing with undomiciled individuals that are also disturbed, that come from the path, you know, come from the Oculus, come from the surrounding areas. And because it is an interior space where it is publicly accessible to them, and, you know, we have people that will sit down at the table and they'll spend some time there and they're fine. And then other times we have individuals that, like this lady that assaulted you, and again, was sitting on a bench, you know, she was sitting there at that point violating any rules and policies. At 12 a.m., we move people out. You're not allowed to sit. You can walk through, but you're not allowed to sit. This incident unfortunately happened shortly before that. But again, we try to make sure that those people that we have concerns about we're keeping an eye on and addressing accordingly. But again, we're also making sure that we're protecting those people's rights as well, right?
We would expect nothing less, and I'm sure you're aware that there is a shelter right across the street, which is supposed to, if I remember correctly, have a certain amount of priority for people in this neighborhood, and maybe it'd be nice if you could try to do some outreach, especially when people can no longer sit there after midnight and see if there's some outreach that they can do so that people can be on the path to having a home.
We have, hand raised online, Peyton Elder, I think she can unmute herself then. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, guys. Sorry. I'm with Brookfield as well. I had raised my hand earlier just to be let in alongside Bill here. But
Oh, yes.
here to help answer any questions as well. But Bill definitely has a lot more answers than I do, and he's doing a great job.
Hi, Peyton.
Yeah.
How are you? Justine
Hey,
saying
guys.
hello.
Yeah, good to see you guys again.
Yes, you've now been elevated to panelist.
Thank you.
Any other, do we have any other questions on Mary Ann? I see. You're muted.
Just with reference to the shelter that's, I'm aware of, that's more in the South Park part of the neighborhood and across West Street. That one admits people who have had a difficult time living in shelters. So whether they would take someone just overnight without their normal screening process, I would tend to doubt. But there probably are homeless groups that, could be contacted about people who seem to be there on a regular basis and who do come through to try to get people help. And it sometimes takes 12 contacts before somebody finally says, yeah, I'll give it a try. So just to clarify.
Pat Murphy, don't you guys work with some providers? I've forgotten.
Yeah, I work with Downtown Alliance and Department of Homeless Services. My guys have on their iPhones, telephone number, working with them. When you start to describe the homeless person, they already know them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They know who it is that you're talking about in that. And, based on working with them, they say it takes like 21 touches before a person will finally accept any help. We've had success twice with someone accepting help. Since, I don't know what occurred after I left, but up to that point, we've had success twice where people actually accepted the help and the safety ambassador made the phone call, stood there with the individual, and within like 20 minutes, car showed up and, took them away in the car. So,
Bill, you may want to compare notes
Yeah.
with Pat.
And we do work with the Downtown Alliance and other groups, like I said, but I will, I'll get the details on this.
Other questions, comments?
Just for clarity, that site 105 Washington is a safe haven shelter, so you can't walk up to it. But if a DSS or contracted outreach team does reach that person, they can then get them to safe haven. It is currently full, but they do turnover, so there's spots that open fairly regularly.
Bill, if you could stay for the next item, which is security from the Battery Park City Authority's perspective, because I think some of the comments in terms of the community's goals with respect to the authorities' security probably apply to the Brookfield situation as well. And so let's go into the second item. As I think all of you know, if you've read your emails from all of you on the committee anyway now, there is an RFP out for the new contract for security in Battery Park City. I guess the response day was last week. I know you probably can't share any details at this point about responses, but can you answer whether there were responses?
Yeah, sure. I can give some quick background there. Jeff and members of the committee, thank you. So we issued an RFP for a comprehensive unarmed security services in December 9th was the date the RFP was issued. Responses were due January 31st. I can report that we received several responsive proposals and we'll be in the process of reviewing those. the current contract with Allied University, you guys know Pat well. Allied Universal's been on the account and Pat as the account manager since I want to say the latter part of 2015. 10 years. And then as long as I've been here, which is April 2016, we've been at many of these meetings with you together. Their current contract runs through mid-May. And then the winning proposal will assume responsibility upon completion of the current contract term, whether that be Allied Universal or someone else. It's an open competitive bid. So any qualified security services firm was able to apply. Okay, so that's the lay of the land. I don't want to comment much more of that on an open solicitation, but that's the basic guideposts and timeline for you.
Before we get into questions, and definitely I'll call on Joe. I hope committee members have had a chance to review the RFP. And in particular, there's a scope of work section that basically describes what the authority is looking to be covered under the contract. And I can see that, I mean, I don't know how things have adjusted over time as to what may be currently in Allied's contract. But we've been advocating for peace officers, and I see that in the new contract, there's a specification of, I believe, 11 peace officers, not necessarily there all the time. I don't know if that's an increase. Do you have 11 peace officers, Pat, now?
No, that would be.
And so I think that's a good thing. Presumably the budget would call for that, would support that kind of thing. It's a little unclear to me in the proposal whether the geographic area that's to be covered by security is any different than the current one. It describes it as the park areas plus Stuyvesant Community Center, as well as the various office spaces for a security company and so forth. But it's always been at least a little unclear to me where the parks end and the streets and everything else begins, because as you know, lots of the streets look like parks, and it's unclear to us what kind of the coverage area is. So Nick or Pat, maybe you can explain what is the coverage area for being patrolled currently?
Yeah, I'll let Pat take the specifics, generally speaking. I guess it's one of the nice benefits of living in a neighborhood that is not intertwined with its parks, and sometimes not easy to tell where the one ends and the other begins. The geographic area, I could say, in the current solicitation is no different than the one that is now. And I know that many times in the past, before I turn it over to Pat, Pat's never not responded to something or his team that's happened in the neighborhood, wherever it was, with, as long as it was within the bounds of Battery Park City proper and outside. Inside private buildings, obviously, will be police in the building. But with that, Pat, you want to go into a little more detail about specific areas?
So basically, we cover all the parks, you know, right there, Teardrop. When you start to go down like by Pier A, you can see the change. You look at the change in the tile, over the tile that they have, right? As you start to walk up, right, you'll see the tile change. Well, that's the boundary line. That's where we stop. So we only just have that area in front of Pier A. And then we picked up, what is it, Pataki Way.
Okay.
We picked that up. We don't cover the Greenway. Okay, but we do respond to, like, if there's an accident or somebody injured or whatever else, we'll go, we'll report it. We come out of the park, we have famous people that call us all the time about, let's say, people smoking, okay? On the bench in front of their building.
Right.
Well, that's out of the park. We'll go out of the park, we'll address it and then go back in.
The street ends in particular, where the rector goes from Rector Place onto the Esplanade, that little area where the benches start and the street ends, it's kind of like a gray area.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll come out, we not, we don't cover really where your business district is, okay? A lot of times, staff will take it as a shortcut coming back for their break, or something like that, but, the whole Esplanade, no, I prefer them walking down the whole Esplanade and then cut across to where the office is to do the break. North End Avenue, will cover that area. Parks has that center where they keep their equipment, that stuff they have right up there. Out towards Stuyvesant High School, we'll cover that. Again, you go down and we stop at the Greenway. Okay, where you have, you know, bicycles, they're racing and that stuff. I've had the police department before they changed the law. We call in, write like 100 tickets and they seized like 50 bikes back then, but now it's legal to operate them and to run them. So there's not even speed limit. The only,
It's another issue.
right.
Betty's
Yeah.
You also go, like, from my understanding now, Battery Park City also picked up, you know where the down ramp used to be? In the old West Side Highway, just in front of.
Yes.
Okay, Battery Park City Authority takes care of that. That's really not a coverage, but we'll take a look in there because we've had a homeless encampment in there. We spoke to the individuals and have notified Department of Homeless Services for them. And then the people moved along and the authority came in and moved the stuff out. You know, so basically, anybody that's called us, we've had doormen call us about them having an issue with somebody inside of their lobby. We'll go in. Now, I tell my people, you're not to touch anybody, call 911 when you go in, if the person won't leave. That's a lot of times, just the mere presence of somebody in uniform. Person's like, no matter how, let's say, upset, if it's a, let me use the right language here, if it's a regular person, okay, you know, they're like, okay, I'll leave, and they just walk out. You know, if you're dealing with something beyond that, we'll call 911, we'll tell the doorman, call 911, but it's not our job to remove them out. I'm not insured for that. Okay, we're just insured for the outside, covering the park and everything that goes on in the park. If there's anything that goes beyond that, they have the supervisor respond with regard to it. Okay, that's the way it works. You know, it's the same thing when you go up around, we cover behind Stuyvesant High School. Up until, when you have the gate down, the cars used to drive into the park, okay. If you look again at the tile there, you'll see the change in the tile. Okay, so we cover to that change and then that's it. Okay? We don't cover the footbridge across from Stuyvesant High School, but if the elevator's out, we'll make the notification to the appropriate person for that.
All right, so Jill, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so once again, kind of just speaking to feelings of safety out. Now, I walk the dog at night. A lot of people walk their dogs, but people are walking. I've never felt unsafe the way I've felt in the past year at night there. When I see an ambassador, it's a sigh of relief. I'm just wondering if at certain points to station at, even if it's, I don't know, a little, one of those heated little huts or something, especially at night, so people know that there's a place they can go if they get spooked, right? If they get scared or something, you know, there's going to be an ambassador at this location on the Esplanade or something like that.
Well, basically, I mean, I've handed out business cards with the security desk number on it,
Yeah.
you know. The authority has put it out also with the number. As part of our thing, it's not putting out, so we're covering like one person may be covering Rockefeller Park, he's got the whole park area.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, in the daytime, there may be two. Okay. Then you got somebody over at Teardrop. Teardrop is always covered.
Yeah.
Okay, there's always somebody at Teardrop. Teardrop, that was 3 blocks. 3 city blocks. And we deal with the homeless there, especially by the coffee shop and behind the library. You know, now we have a woman that now comes and, you know, they set up shop by the library and she wants to spend the night because the heat comes under the door. Same thing with the coffee shop, the heat comes under the door. So that's where they're gonna set up. Right, and we speak to them. But obviously, we can't even ask them to leave the park until 1 o'clock in the morning because according to the authorities' rules, the park is open until 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so, you know, that's basically where it comes from. In the daytime, we ask the homeless not to lay down on the bench, they can sit up, they want to sleep, sit up, fine. In the summertime, I tell my staff, just don't lay a blanket on the lawn, go sleep on the lawn, it's fine. Everybody else is laying out on the lawn, big deal, that's the big deal. You know, the thing, I think, you're dealing with the homeless, you're dealing with a bigger issue when you're dealing with somebody that is, not mentally stable. Okay, to me, coming from law enforcement background, I'm like, how does somebody who is classified as an emotionally disturbed person able to say, I don't want services? If you haven't been classified as an emotionally disturbed person, well then obviously they don't know how to take care of themselves, right? So why, you know, so that to me is my dilemma, but that's myself personally. I think it's a big dilemma that the city has to deal with and address. But if you're gonna call a police officer, the scene, police officer just gonna turn around and say, do you want to leave? No, okay, that's it.
No, I understand that, and, you know, what, I'm just talking, not really specific to that issue, I'm talking about being out at night, it's very deserted out there.
If you call the desk.
Yeah.
We do escorts. We've had ambassadors go and walk people to their apartment, you know, to their apartment. So you can call the desk and we'll do an escort.
Well, you and your team are wonderful for doing that, thank you, Pat.
Well,
Thanks.
Jill, and actually the rest of the committee, if there are specific suggestions that we want to make, such as having them in a booth or whatever, now's the time for us to make it so that the future contract can support it, being supported or required. I mean, if the contract contemplates economically a certain amount of staff, I see Pat's point, it essentially doubles the staff for certain areas of the park, because you don't want somebody just fixed in a spot and then nobody else. You know, whereas like right now, you can cover the park with one person during certain hours, but if you have somebody in a booth, requires at a minimum of 2 people. But if we want somebody in a booth, now's the time for us to say that. We'll do a resolution at the end of whatever our recommendations are, and perhaps they can be either accommodated in the contract or at least considered for inclusion in the contract when the new contract comes out. Betty's had her hand up a while, so let me call on Betty.
Thank you. First, I have 2 points I want to make about the RFP. But one, I do not want somebody in a booth. Why? Because what's the chance when you have a problem that you happen to be near the booth versus at the far end? So I'd rather people keep mobile and use your phone to contact someone if you're looking for assistance rather than physically seeking someone. Anyway, my 2 comments. One, now that we're looking at the streetscape in Battery Park City, I was very concerned about what was stated in words about what is to be covered with 32 acres or whatever, and really the parks were completely contradicted what really is going to be done. So it made it very confusing. If we're going to look at anything with the streetscape, such as around my building, where it would be really nice if some of the ambassadors could assist with 311 or contacting the TLC about the terrible problem of the for-hire vehicles that just plague the area around my building. Why are we excluding them from doing that from the get-go? I don't understand that, and why even bother to have a streetscape meeting with people if all those things have already been excluded? And there is in the addendum a map of the area. Why not use that as the area that's covered? And then if you want to shade it to say these are the area of higher focus, by all means do that, and then do the parks if you want. But it sounds on one hand like you're excluding parts, and on the other hand, no, we're covering everything because we have a history of we go everywhere. Very confusing. So I would straighten that out.
So if I understand your comment, Betty, that our ask on that subject for the contract would be to expand to not just limit it to the parks, but to expand it to include
92 acres plus around Pier A. As the map does.
Yeah, okay.
And
All
then
right.
again, if they want to have concentration areas, by all means, consider doing that. But the other verbally excludes or appears to exclude the other areas. And then everyone's walking that back and saying, well, no, we really do those areas. Well, what are we telling the people answering the RFP?
Well, and I think as Pat implied, their insurance coverage may be different if they're doing something outside of their contracted area. So if we want an area covered, we should specify it in the contract and not just rely on people voluntarily doing it, because it may not be wise for them to voluntarily patrol outside of the coverage area. How do others feel about expanding the area of coverage to the 92 acres, well, minus Brookfield, as opposed to simply the parks? Comments, questions?
I had thought that they did.
I was gonna say, I think everybody assumes they did. And some of the biggest complaints from residents is why don't they come to our streets when we're having some of the problems?
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Can I stick my 2 cents in when you're ready?
Wait, and then I'm
Yes.
gonna give a second point that is a little bit more obscure. And you can certainly take it offline. I just want to at least mention it. That is, as somebody with a disability and a background in physical therapy, the other area that really screamed out at me when I looked at security personnel, which was under 1B, and it was sections 1 through 3. And so it had things like the outdoor patrol versus the indoor versus that area, which was on, let me see, like A1 through 3, pages A1 to 3. It has some very, I have to go look at it. You see the qualifications for security personnel? It's on page 18 of the RFP. If you look at the 97-page document.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at the exhibit A, but are the qualifications there, or I don't have?
Right, if you look at those qualifications, they're under number 6, and then you see the capital A. If you go down to, for instance, 5 and 6 is relevant to what I'm talking about. The small,
Short, Betty, can you read it?
yeah, 5 is able to read, clearly communicate verbally, and prepare written incident reports in English. It does not, well, that's communication, but it does not mention the handheld device they're using and the ability to use that, which seems a little left something out. But my bigger point is if you go to 6, which is, this is terrible, in good physical condition to perform the essential duties of the position. Therapist, I can tell you, the essential duties are never laid out anyway, so that's meaningless. Good is also meaningless, because do you mean good for your age? Do you mean good for your physical abilities, such as you're in a wheelchair, but we still consider you good, but no, we really want you to climb and do things? The essential abilities aren't spelled out. Why is that a problem? If someone has a disability, they cannot negotiate. They don't have to reveal that they have a disability until they're offered a job. They can't ask for and want an accommodation. It's very difficult to ask for an accommodation when you really don't know what the essential abilities being asked of you are. How can you say, no, I can't walk the 92 acres, but I can get around in my wheelchair? When you don't know that that's one of the essential abilities. So that's the positive for the people with disabilities. For the business, for Battery Park City Authority, the advantage is when my ex-husband and I owned a business together, we used our essential abilities, which we had for each class of job, whether it was clerical, supervisory, chair side, those kinds of things. They weren't all the same for everybody. We were then able to say, for instance, if they went on a maternity leave or they unfortunately had medical problems, which did come up on multiple occasions, we asked for them when they returned to work, they had a medical release, and that included from the physician, they could achieve the essential abilities. So the doctor knew what they were clearing, we knew what they were clearing, and if things had changed, we knew what had to be negotiated.
So you're suggesting that essential duties and this qualifications needs to be defined?
It needs to be better defined, laid out, and even if it's in a separate document and you combine those two together and say that they meet essential abilities, and then you put down your communication abilities, you put down your physical movement abilities. I mean, you can kind of divvy them up that way. And your cognitive abilities, are you asking them to be able to make judgment calls? Or, I mean, so there are different domains you can work within. But nevertheless, I think it needs to be spelled out better for the authority as well as for the person who may have a disability and looking for an accommodation. Thank you.
I can't see the screen, whether they're.
I have my hand raised and so does Mary Ann.
Okay, so Justine, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry that I've got a big mouth, Mary Ann. All right, so, oh, you weren't finished, Betty?
Oh, no, no, misunderstanding.
Okay, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. All right, so many things to say. First, I think that it is important for us to take advantage of the opportunity to write a resolution where we give specifics, and I'm loving the fact that that's on the table. The specifics that the community would like. In terms of having a particular booth or something that someone is stationed in permanently or not, my answer back to that would be the booth's purpose is to give some sort of a climate controlled area for someone to go in and out of, but they don't have to be stationed only in that little booth at all times. That said, Pat, you said something, I believe the Teardrop Park covers 3 blocks. My answer for that is one person roving 3 blocks is not good enough for Teardrop Park. We need 3. West Thames Park, for example, I know we have the office, whatever it's called, your main office is in 200 Rector Place, which is right on the corner there by West Thames Park. But that person and those people that are inside there are inside. They're answering the phone. They're doing things. They're a place that people will walk in and out of. That is not a place or a person who you can call on to do anything for you. All the best they could do is call an ambassador on a radio who then will get there in 5 to 10 minutes. And that is just the reality of how things come across, which is why when you notice people have stopped complaining about dogs on the grass, for example, or dogs breaking the rules, they don't complain because nobody ever shows up. And it's not like they don't come. Let me finish.
I don't want to steal your thunder. Go ahead.
No, let me say, so maybe it's finished. It's not like they don't eventually come. They do, but the time frame isn't good. So once again, West Thames Park would need one person stationed outside somewhere in the middle of the turf, as well as the roving. So I don't know how you want to handle it, Jeff, as a resolution, whether it's we want to call for more staff at all times and having people required to be stationed in one place as well as rove around. I don't think it's an either or. I think it has to be both. And I think that does cost more money. And I appreciate that, with the budget that it is, Pat can only do what he can do. But I think that we need to look at this and say, considering the level of people that are on the street, whether they're just houseless or they're whatever their challenges are, mentally challenged, whatever it is. We need more people there to kind of prevent, as kind of be preventative people, but also to respond and protect people in the minute. And it's infuriating in the sense when people are walking on the street and you need somebody and there's nobody there. It's frustrating, and that happens all too often. I mean, uh, I mean, and that's just the way that it is. So what does that say to you? Does it mean that no one's doing their job? No, they're doing their job. They're just not enough people. And it's very unfortunate that we're in a time frame in our world now where we need more people, but we need more security. So that would be my request there. And then there was a third thing in the resolution that you talked about. Oh, 92 acres. Yes, I'm on board with that.
Justine, 1 second. I wanted to make sure I understood what your request was. You just said, so that's my request, but you said a lot. So what is your
More
request?
staff, more staff. I think that without telling the security companies what, how to do their jobs, because I don't know, but more staff and having staff specific to one place and then roving. So if you're going to have a staff assigned to Teardrop Park, they can't be walking through 3 blocks. That's not assigned to Teardrop Park. That's roving. And it's West Thames Park. You can't say, oh, that's covered because you got, and then I'm not saying you're saying this, Pat, by any stretch, but that's covered because you've got the guys in the little office there. They get up, and that's not their job to get up and go outside.
Wait, just tell us what you need. Just tell us what you need.
More people.
More people.
And stationed in specific areas. And I think that we could kind of come together and say, where would we like more coverage? I'd like more coverage in West Thames Park. I'd like more coverage in Teardrop Park. I'd like more coverage on and probably in Rockefeller Park too, I'm going to imagine, by the playground, the basketball courts. But I'd like to hear from people in the north.
Stationary and roving, both, is that correct?
That's what that would be my request. So the roving exists already. So the increase in staffing would be to figure out a way to have stationary people as well.
All right, let me understand.
I know, figure out how to write it. And if anybody agrees with me, that's
No,
fine.
I think more than how to write it, I want to understand what the concept is.
That there's a location where there's always a person, this person's gonna
When
be,
you say location, you mean a booth?
I don't know,
Well, it may-
No, I mean, I mean, not necessarily a booth, because that would limit them to that, spot, Jill.
don't need to have to determine if it's a booth or not, that's
No,
not.
but we need to clarify what our request
We
is.
want a location where we know there's always a person in addition to the roving, so this is in effect doubling it. A
Where
person
would
in
the
a,
booth be placed? Where would the
Take it.
booth be
Well,
placed?
again, once again, I don't know that we need one. I mean, again, that was Jill's idea. I don't care if it's a booth or not. It's a lovely concept. I would like to have a,
Lovely.
I could
I
answer your
disagree.
question, Jeff.
Unreal. It's
In
unreal.
wording, I would like to have a,
Hold on, stop.
Stop talking.
Nobody's even listening to my question. They're telling me the answers that
oh,
Let's try to finish the question before
Okay.
we.
Here's my difficulty with this concept. In understanding what it is. It seems to me there is a concept of a person located at a particular location. And the main reason for that person to be there is that so a member of the public knows where they can run to find a human being.
Well, someone's,
partially.
not necessarily, not to find a human being, but someone who's there with eyes on.
Justine, when you're online, it's.
So it's multiple reasons. One is it's a deterrent, and I think that might be the main thing. There's always eyes on certain, that will be there. This person can call others if need be, if something happens, or there's a location, because that the office, as Justine says, is very far away. So there's no,
I'm not trying to distinguish between the office and what you're talking about.
what I'm saying is there's no, it's 3 blocks for one person roaming, as Justine specifically stated, is too much. People roaming are,
Okay, I understand that.
no, it's a deterrent, it's a safety issue, it's, provides more eyes.
Okay, so, hold on. I agree with a lot of what you are saying. I have a concern about micromanaging a security service when none of us have that training or expertise.
Which is why we can't get specific, because we don't have that training.
And so I want to be careful in what we ask for. It seems to me that there seems to be a consensus that we want more staffing than currently exists.
Correct.
And
Yes.
the RFP calls for, I think, a minimum of 5 on at all time, and we've got a lot of area to cover for 5
Some of the 5 officers or SPOs, you mean?
people.
I thought it was officers.
Anybody, 5
SPOs.
inclusive of any SPOs. And I agree with you that presence is a deterrence. What I don't agree with, because I'm not knowledgeable enough to agree or disagree, is specifying that that person needs to be fixed to some location, if you're defining a location as a booth or as a 25-foot radius of some physical spot.
Okay.
Applying common sense, that's not much of a deterrence except for around that particular spot.
I would, if we can make it, Jeff, to interrupt you right that 1 second. It's not for the booth or a 25-foot spot. It's putting somebody in West Thames Park that's outside West Thames Park that has eyes on West Thames Park. That could
In
look
other
at the
words, more
basketball field, basketball courts, could have eyes on to see, if you're
Hold on,
standing
that's-
if you're standing there by West Thames Park, you can look to your left and you can see the basketball courts, you can see the gardens. You look to your right, you can see the playground and you can see that little grassy area.
Justine. I'm sorry, but I think we talk over one another when you're talking. You can't hear me. That's difficult to specify other than more personnel with the concept that at any spot in the park, there should be visible an officer, at least for certain times of the day.
Oh, I would leave that part out. I think 20,
I mean, we're talking about a huge increase in personnel, if that's what you're talking
well, it
about.
may be needed.
It would maybe mean to midnight. Because people take their dog, they love to go out at dark.
Any of them out there?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I look out the window
I
and
think
see.
it's the safety of our community. I think that,
Well, we don't have to give a number, but I think we would give the concept of that at all time, there's sufficient staffing that at all time there would be personnel visible.
Can I get a turn finally?
Yeah,
I have a different opinion to put out here.
Go ahead, Marion.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
First on the things that Betty detailed earlier, those are all relevant for the entity doing the hiring. But the authority is not doing the hiring, it's the agency that they decide to use. So I think that's at a different level, and may not therefore need to be in our specs. So they have the legally required stuff like, they're not discriminating on the basis of age or other items, but that's all I'll say on that. As far as security in Battery Park City, I don't know what's changed in the last year because I don't feel any different. Number one, if we lived on any place downtown, we would not have the advantage of police patrols within a wave. We do expect more here because we pay more here to have I'll call it just generically a better neighborhood with certain amenities that you don't get on all the streets. But I always have the phone number for the security office in my phone. If I were out walking at night or in a sketchy area of Battery Park City, I'd have that very handy, ready to just touch it. And maybe, some communications like that to the neighborhood would be more helpful to people. as opposed to trying to make sure that there's a security person in a particular area that is of concern. That's all I'll say about that.
Thank you, Marianne. I think that's a good point. Justine, before I get to you, Nick wanted to say
But
something.
just very quickly, if it's helpful for the committee, Jeff, and thank you, the first step, and you've read this closely. The first step of the contract of the security firm's scope would be to develop a community safety plan with you all. A security plan, so when the contractor is developed, is chosen, they come in and kind of sit and go through these conversations with you. That's not to say you shouldn't be having these conversations now to know what it is you want to ask for. But, you know, maybe when you draft in the resolution saying, hey, as the scope says, it's a community security plan, these are the things that we would like to maybe see. Maybe that's helpful. And then the other thing, Justine, if helpful for you all and the members of the committee, thanks to the urging of one of our newest board members, Clint Plummer, who's a Battery Park City resident, he had urged specifically some more funding. So you will see that manifest itself specifically as we get to the spring and the summer. You should see beefed up in all parks and public spaces. So that was something that Clint had asked for. We worked to get that. So just coming down the pipe, you should see that.
Okay.
Irrespective of the new vendor, you should see, or the contract, you should see that.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do is see if we can come up with a list of things, because we can talk about this all night, and it's already 7:20, and we've got a couple more items on the agenda, and which I'd like to get to. My notes are not legible even to me, pretty much, so I'm going to try to make some clearer notes. And they're not necessarily in order of importance, they're in order of being able to decipher and remember them. One is expand physical jurisdiction to
Streets.
Battery Park City, other than that patrolled by Brookfield, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when we were discussing this, Betty made reference to plaque and you know, basically vehicular related enforcement. Unclear, well, first of all, before I go on, Betty, in fact, is that what you're asking for, vehicular enforcement, or were you asking for something else?
Actually, I think since the streetscape group is just starting to organize, I don't think that can be answered at this time but I think that's a direction that group's looking to move into, and I hate to see it excluded.
Okay, so how about we be silent on it for the moment? They exclude the jurisdiction to all of Battery Park's city. And as part of the community protection plan, we can give some specification as to whether we want resources. I mean, whatever we end up with, it will be a fixed resource. And so then we will need to prioritize where we want this particular resource to be focusing its attention. But it sounds like that the vehicular aspect of it may be informed by the streetscape discussions, and there may be some vehicular things we want them to look at, and others we'll leave to NYPD or the
Running buses, things like that, when they're running their engines, that's
yeah, I'm not
X
sure.
minutes.
That seemed to be, thank you, Jill, for saying that, because that was the placards, the buses that are illegally parked or whatever, or just idling. Seems like that, but do we want to do it? I agree with Betty. We should wait for the specifics.
Okay. Second item is that we want more personnel than the 5 minimum specified in the RFP.
Which Nick just said is already planned.
Well, I'm
I'll
not,
still put it in. Yeah, you'll see, but
I
you'll
mean, that's,
see. an increase.
if he's got more
Yeah.
money, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's good to ask for it anyway.
yeah. And not necessarily a requirement, but aspirational goal of sufficient coverage such that an ambassador would be in sight at all time.
Yeah.
One.
Maybe you could even put like at high, uh, complaint, high risk, I don't know what the right word is, but high something area, an ambassador would be in sight at all times, because they don't have to be in sight at all times every place.
Yeah, yeah. High traffic.
High traffic,
Impact, high, whatever,
Yeah.
hotspots.
I'd like.
Now, speaking of hotspots, one that we haven't discussed tonight, I think we may want to identify, and that is the ball fields. We get persistent complaints from users of the ball fields that they have incidents there and it takes a while for an ambassador to get there. There's like permit enforcement, people, commandeer fields and so forth. And so I think we may want to specify that the ball fields be an area of special coverage. I mean, they identify Stuyvesant, for example, as an area of coverage, but I think we may well identify the ball fields as an area of special coverage.
100%.
Okay.
Makes sense.
We could, in that hotspot, we could say something like, for example, or including but not limited to the ball fields and by Stuyvesant High School or something. So you're specifically naming them.
Yeah.
Up to you. But I think that would
The
make sense,
volleyball
because you're
court
right.
area,
Yeah.
So that they have a good, someone's always, that volleyball court area.
I think we should say something about the SPOs. I don't know what the right number is, but I'm certainly happy to see it specifically called out in here as well as training and so forth. So I think I don't have a particular reason to increase it, but I think it's important to have SPOs and the minimum requirement of 11.
Yeah, question.
Yes,
How
go
many
ahead.
how many do we have now? And what does the current contract call for? And I think I know the answers, but I'd rather have Nick or Pat answer it. But how many do we have now? What does the current contract call for? And why don't we have enough? Or why haven't we met that number yet? If that's the case.
And how many SPOs do you currently have?
We're down to 3, I had 9 to start of the contract, down to 3. It's a lot tougher, with the police department right now, especially dealing with the license division, is shorthanded. So every time there's a detail or a new push, like the African push now on riding the subway trains, they pull from all the details. So, the applications are in, they just sit there and you gotta wait,
What's the contract called for?
I'm not sure, to be honest, going off of the last 5-year contract, so, I believe it was calling for the same at 11.
That's what I recall. 11 was what we asked, what was in the contract last time. We never quite got 11. But I know, I'm glad to know at one point we were up to 9, but now we've lost, people have left, whatever. And it is not through the actions or lack of actions by Allied that we only have 3. It's that the police are not processing it, the applications right now.
They haven't, I mean, I have applications in and, they're sitting there. So,
I have a list of a couple of things that I've accumulated over time based on comments from community members and so forth. And that some of this is kind of mom and apple pie, but I think it's important for us to identify it as priorities for us. And one is that a high priority is ensuring the safety of all users of, Battery Park City. And hard to argue against, but I think it's worth saying it. The second thing is that the security officers should be more than eyes and ears. They need to be kind of arms and legs as well, that, you know, some, a level of, you know, when things are observed, action needs to be taken, that we appreciate proactivity on the part of the security personnel while we're not calling for crackdowns. I mean, every time there's any kind of, law enforcement related crackdown, the crackdowns always go for the low hanging fruit. So we're not calling for quotas of summonses or anything like that. We're not interested in the, you know, the young mother with a 7-foot long leash rather than a 6-foot long leash, getting a summons. But we do want proactivity and safety, and action, but no crackdowns. The contract should allow for, in terms of financially, as well as encourage continuing training of all officers, including continuing training of SPOs, so that we can sort of continuously meet this. Anything else that I've missed out of what we've said? Oh, you know, there are lots of comments, people saying they have your phone number. It's not so readily available in the, you know, if you stop some random person walking through Battery Park City, they don't know who to call. And so I think we want that publicized, the call number publicized, whether it's on all, you know, go to the website and you see it in Battery Park City Authority.
Yeah, the escort,
Yeah.
availability.
Yeah. Because it's amazing. I mean, I remember I was somewhere and somebody asked me, you know, how do we call the PEPs? I mean, what's what we used to call you, your predecessors. You know, how do we call security? I said, well, it's probably right there on the website, but it's not. It's not so easy to find. Maybe it is now, but it wasn't then. So we need to make it easy to find security. Okay.
Put it up in those boxes, the boxes where you have the events, you know, that are around there. Be a good place to
Yeah,
put
near
it.
the front page, we can add that.
You know,
We can do that for
the
you.
street things.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Betty.
Jeff, yeah, I'm going to say that I understand what Mary Ann said, but I think she misinterpreted what I said. And so I still ask for, unless I hear a lot of people opposing it, because the BPCA has it on their document about qualifications for security personnel, i.e. it's not being left to the people that are their contractors. They're taking care of it as this is what they want to see from whoever they set up an agreement with. And talks about the ability to read whatever, as well as the in physical condition. I think those two lines should be considered changed to better advocate for the people with disabilities. And I don't care exactly how they do it. It may be asking them, they should be able to set out the essential abilities that are needed, the various job classifications. I mean, I'm okay with the simple terminology, but something other than what exists now.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. So under that particular, on the qualifications, which is on page A8 of the appendix, then in item 6,
Yeah, it's page 18
term-
in the document, but A8 on the appendix, on the addendum.
Yeah, I'm looking at the physical copy. That the phrase essential duties needs to be defined.
And all, yeah, to really rewrite the little 5 and little 6.
Would that include training also? I mean, I know they talk about training, but I think that, having specific training is,
Well, I think training is included in.
it is, yeah, okay.
Okay. Pat, you were about to say something, sorry.
I was just gonna say to Justine, Dick had sent me an email that he received about dogs on the lawn, and, we wrote 2 tickets the following day.
Yeah, Sunday, I think it was, right?
We got,
Right, Sunday,
okay. All right.
you know, the email had the date, you know, had the time, person's out there, so we were able, and, thanks to the winter fencing. Thing was only one way in, one way out.
Okay.
So you're gonna corral them?
I mean, I think that's an example of the right balance of enforcement slash education. We don't want anybody who is a one-time violator of a rule to be given a summons or nitpicky violations, but you know, that particular rule is there for a reason, and if someone's a repeat violator, I think it's appropriate to issue a summons.
And then your dog runs with the ball.
Do we have anything else that we want to add to our, I'm suggesting a resolution where we, the whereases would make reference to contract renewal and the RFP that's outstanding, the contemplated upcoming contract award, and that the community would like to see the following priorities addressed in the contract, including the community safety plan that discussions that Nick raised. And so community safety plan, expand the physical jurisdiction, more personnel than the 5 minimum specified in the RFP, with the aspirational goal of officer insight at all times in hotspot areas. I figure out a way to say that. That when the ball fields are open, there should be an officer assigned to the ball fields. The importance of having SPOs and the ability to maintain the full 11 complement, and the goal of ensuring safety as the objection is the prime objective. My handwriting is getting continued training, which we already kind of addressed in that one above, but supporting continuing training. That we want proactivity in enforcement, but no quota-driven crackdowns, and that in the qualifications for personnel, essential duties in the context of being in good physical condition to perform the essential duties of the position, but essential duties need to be defined. And then finally, public widespread publication of the contact number to secure security services. Anything else?
Can I just say that I have this nagging feeling that I read that there is continuous education already in the documents that I read today. So
I think there is, but funding sufficient to support the condition, that the funding in the contract should be sufficient.
It's fine to put it in there.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, some of these things are, I see your point, but it's important to us, and who knows what's going to get weeded out in the actual contract as opposed to what's in the RFP, and this is an important one to keep in, make sure it finds its way in the contract.
well, what I will do is look it up for you, because you may want to change it to say that, you know, we're glad to see this, but we want the funding to make sure that it happens.
That's fine. If you do that out for me, I'll include it that way. All right. Make a motion that we, in favor of such a resolution. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
I'll take it by affirmation. We'll take anyone in opposition. None. Any abstentions? Any recusals? Resolution passes. Thank you, security people. But Pat don't go away.
Thank you, everybody.
as well. In due course, but I want to get to the dog run item on the agenda.
Yes.
Now. And I know we have at least Janie here to present. There you are.
Yep.
And do we have others?
I would be introducing our design consultants from the Green Collective. We have Kate and Allie here today. Hello. Nice to meet you guys. Nice to meet you.
So excited.
A lighter topic.
But very important.
Oh, lighter, maybe.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to introduce myself in case some of you weren't here in November, which was the last time I was here. In November, we introduced this project to you and we were in the RFP process. And we had also just finished our outreach during the dog parade where we put out a survey. Thank you for letting us be part of that. Since then, we've shared those results with the firm that we've awarded this to, which is the Green Collective. I meant to introduce myself. I'm Janie Go. I'm with Battery Park City Authority. Planning, Design, and Construction Department. I am a project manager of planning and design. Can everybody can see this, right? Okay. So we had a survey out, feedback survey, which kind of helped rank all the different components of our dog runs. We're going to be focusing on North End Avenue and Kowski dog runs for this upgrade project. The survey also had some open-ended items touching upon what we like, dislike, and other dog runs that we aspire to. So these are the two dog runs I just mentioned, and we're calling out the features that we like about these or that the community seems to be drawn to. And so, yes, we've since hired Green Collective. They are a landscape design firm and they also specialize in community engagement. And so we thought they were perfect for this project. It was a very drawn out RFP process, but we awarded the project in December and we kicked it off in January. And so I'm going to hand this over to Kate and Allie to introduce themselves and lead the presentation.
Great. So is it better if we sit at the table for
Yeah. Probably yes, because the
the?
camera will point to your audience.
Excellent. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Kate Belsky. I'm Director of Landscape Architecture at Green Collective, and I'm joined with
I'm Allie. I'm an associate with Green Collective.
And as Janie mentioned, our office, our practice really specializes in two fields, both landscape design and community-driven design. So all of the core of our work is that all of the planning comes from a community engagement and participatory design process. And so we're really excited to engage with the many communities and stakeholders in that process, and you guys being one of them. So this is a little bit about our firm, so you can get to know us and understand us better. Landscape architecture, urban planning is another component of what we do, community engagement. And this is a little bit about the approach that we take, the inclusive stakeholder mapping. And actually, I'm going to let Allie speak to this slide because she's one of our engagement specialists.
Yeah, so we have a very complete engagement process that goes from mapping stakeholders, understanding who should be involved, and engaging and listening to stakeholders throughout the whole project, from beginning to end, and always connected to what is happening in the design as well. Go to the next slide. So our design and our engagement, they work hand by hand. So every time there's something happening in the design, there's also something happening in the engagement, and we are gonna explain more what we are planning for the engagement for the dog runs.
So what we wanted to do here tonight was kind of give you guys a background on the project goals and the strategies that we're going to be using for this participatory process. So obviously you understand the scope of the project is we're both looking at the experiential upgrades for the dog run. So can we make this more of a community building space? Is that what the communities want? Do we want to increase enrichment? Like, there's so many ways that we can start to think about this, exploring sustainability and waste management, all of those elements. And then at the same time, the physical upgrades that are needed for the space, because it's been probably almost 15 or 20 years since those spaces have been upgraded. And design standards have been upgraded since then, and understanding of the role that urban dog parks play in communities and what are the best materials to facilitate that, we've come a long way. So making all of those upgrades is part of the project. This is just a quick sketch of another dog park that we did through a participatory process with Smith Houses at NYCHA. So also in Lower Manhattan, of course, the budgets were incredibly limited there. So they really had to decide what their biggest goals were and what they were focusing on, but just thought we would throw it in there for fun. This is like some of the style of imagery you might see throughout the process. And then we have a timeline of the whole engagement process and what's going to happen. I'm going to let Alex speak.
Yeah, so we have three phases of engagement. We have the broad engagement, which will happen through surveys. So we are developing a survey that will be distributed to all the stakeholders, including everyone here. The survey will ask questions, for example, what are the conditions of the dog runs, which dog runs do you use the most, what would you like to see, what improvements would you think are necessary, and many other questions. We are also going to have deep engagement, which will be done through an advisory committee. So we are in the process of creating this advisory committee. And we are going to have a couple of meetings with this advisory committee to give more details about the project, more details about what we are planning, and to hear back as well and collaborate on the final design. And we're also proposing one walking tour with the advisory committee. We also, after the design is finalized, we are going to do a community celebration to show everyone the design that was created. And after that, we are going to do light outreach and some community touch points.
So even after the design process is completed and we're going through construction, our engagement won't totally disappear, because I'm sure people will have questions, timeline, what they see happening. So we'll still be available and in contact. So why are we here today?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we are creating an advisory committee, which will be a group of local experts and dog owners that will be the key stakeholders for us. We are doing this because we want to create a design that is responsive to the real needs of communities. So it's very important to work in close collaboration with those stakeholders. We are planning for 4 meetings, in person or online. We are going to discuss it later in the process, and each meeting will be interactive. So we're going to have, for example, choice making activities. We're going to learn from precedents. We're going to do a walkthrough, and we're also going to do co-design exercises. And these are some of the stakeholders that we thought about including in the advisory committee: the Battery Park City Committee, so you guys here, BPCA Dog Waste Composting Group, and BPC Dog Association. We are still discussing it. It's not a final list, but it's something that those are the initial stakeholders that we thought of including.
And then quickly, the scale of our advisory committee is.
Oh yeah, 8 to 15 people.
Okay. So the next step.
Wait, say that again. How many people? I missed it.
Oh, that's okay. We're looking at between 8 and 15. We're working with Battery Park City Authority to really define exactly who that group is and all the different stakeholder groups that we want to kind of pull advisory committee board members from. So it's a little bit flexible right now as we narrow it down. Oh, so the next steps are that we will define that advisory committee, and then we'll kick off with the first advisory committee meeting. And also you will see the broad feedback survey will be popping up around your neighborhood. If you go to the dog park, you'll see a QR code that will link to it. You'll probably get email blasts about it. So these are the next steps that are happening. And then we wanted to open up for questions and see, you know,
Well, let me start it out, since I'm actually in two of these groups. As well as the community board, I think this is a great idea, this process. Many of you may remember, not you guys, but listeners and did go through a similar to get the dog runs built in the first place. Most recently, the one on West Thames, and that wasn't all that recent ago, probably 15 years or more. Which is not one that's subject to this, that's the one that's just off of the Boundary City Authority property. And I think that process works well in terms of making sure the designers know what community wants. And it also helps with buy-in from the community when they understand why certain decisions were made, that, you know, people may want X, Y, and Z, but if they're part of the group or they're communicating with people that are part of the group, they may understand why X, Y, and Z wasn't chosen, but A, B, and C was chosen instead. So I think it's a good process. So let me open it up to questions. Jill, I imagine you have questions.
Hi, so first of all, thank you. I am thrilled beyond words. So what I did, you know, a little stand up in the dog run this afternoon, just to tell people this is happening. Everyone has a different opinion. In New York, as you know, dog runs are community social spaces.
yeah.
Dogs are extremely important. There's dog groups that go at different times to different runs. I'm not sure who the dog composting group is. Never heard of them, and we have issues, so I'll talk to you about later. But I think that it's great. I think you have to outreach a different way. Not exactly sure, I have thoughts. I actually think going to the dog parks at different times of day and just starting to talk to people would be a very, very important thing to do. My group goes 3:30 to, you know, I go to Gateway Park, very opinionated. But you'll have everything there from My Little Papillon. We hang out with Atticus, who is the dog that the DA's office used for children who are being abused, is a service dog in there. I mean, so it runs the.
He's my dog, but.
But he's so good with the children. Anyway, I'm just saying, when you go to this park, it's kind of unbelievable, the difference, but it's a cohesive group and we enjoy each other's company, and so each park at different times has different groups with different things.
Yes.
And I do think physically, I mean, even today in this horrible weather, everyone was out there because their dogs have to run.
Right.
We're talking about cleaning their pushing. But, so I do think that reaching, you know, if Jeff had started the dog association, the Battery Park Dog Association, which I think at a certain point had more members than the Battery Park City Neighbors Association. So which is an extraordinarily important tool, but a lot of the people, there's new people, I think that don't even know.
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
exists.
Sure.
So that's my suggestion. Second of all, you know, in certain parks, there's different needs, but everybody wants more physical
Enrichment. Yeah.
whatever you would call that, and water features, and the number one thing is soft ground. And I showed you the picture. This is what this looks like right now.
Yes, we've been visiting.
Yeah, okay, so you know, people, part of the issue you hear about the dogs being on the grass, as Pat said, is because there is no soft place for these dogs. So by creating a space where they can get that, you know, it'll be a benefit to the greater community.
I think those are all really great points, and thank you so much for sharing. And so much of that is a lot of the research we're doing right now on like the benefits of soft and loose materials versus the continuous materials that might seem easier to clean. And all of these conversations are so detailed, like you're saying. And that's exactly why we're thinking we need an advisory group so we can really put the time in to dive deep into all of these things. And I love the idea about tabling. We were talking about that too, like on a beautiful weekend, we
Well,
randomly get,
weekends
oh,
are,
you get lots of extra people, right?
we get a lot of tourist dogs.
Yeah.
Which are fine, but I think when you wanna get the neighborhood dogs, you wanna go, when the weather's nicer, people take their dogs out after 5, now you see people take a break during their day. So weekend dogs in Battery Park City are very different than.
Yeah. Yeah, so we could do both. Yeah, and if you guys have the inside on the best times of day to drop by each park, please let us know.
Jill, you said it's tourist dogs.
Tourist dogs.
Quickly, I thought you said terrorist dogs. This is gonna be so much more of a complicated project than I thought.
My dog can figure out how to open the gates.
Right.
He's famous.
Brilliant, it seems.
I wanted to clarify the BPCA composting group. That's a group internal to BPCA. It's mainly a lot of BPCA parks operations, and they were behind the initiative to compost the dog waste.
So you know what's happening is the newspapers are going over like the poop and they're being left there by people and the shovel's broken and there's a lot of issues. So,
Yeah, we can get them replaced. That's
y-
really.
well, there's, yeah, and nobody cleans it. It's, so the dog people who go to the morning group, I don't. So the early morning group clean the park because there's just
People leave it
poop
overnight.
with tons, or they come in early in the morning before they go to work and they leave it. And they just put newspapers on it, or, I don't wanna get into graphic detail.
Okay.
And they cleaned up the birds themselves because of birds.
So Jill, would you want to be on this advisory committee?
Oh my God, if you insist.
She doesn't have strong feelings.
I'll certainly be on, I'll serve on it with you.
Awesome.
2 great resources, so.
That would be great. I would volunteer, except my dogs don't play well with others, so I've never been to a dog run with any of my dogs. So I think we're well represented with Jeff and Jill and anybody else who wants to do it.
Yes, I'm sure my wife who really does more of running the dog association than I do, would be more than happy to join. And we're gonna solicit our members for other volunteers.
Looks like Marianne might want to say something. Sorry.
Just thinking
Yes,
to
ma'am.
reach out to people who live near the North End Avenue run, who make more use of that. So you're getting diversity of people there.
Yes, well, that's where tabling certainly would help as well. I rarely go to that dog.
Well, I do go there to the small dog run. I have that group also.
Good for you.
But not as often.
Okay, so I think so you will be distributing the new survey shortly. I think, as I mentioned to you, Janie, I think it would be useful to reach out to the 3 merchants in the area that deal with dogs to see if they would be happy to post this, on their counters or in the windows. I imagine that they would be more than happy to do that.
Perhaps, Jeff, I don't know if they would want to be on the advisory group or not, but that's something that you guys think about as not my call.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing to the survey. Since everyone already filled out a survey, I could be wrong, think you're gonna get a great response necessarily to a second survey. I would really rely on that first survey as equally not.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that it has a lot more of the detailed questions that you're bringing up about materiality and kind of the types of things so it's a way to, because not everyone can be on the advisory group, give everyone a chance to put their opinion out there.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just saying, because was a recent survey,
Yeah.
people may not.
The
I don't
first,
think they will.
I think the first survey was more of like a pulse check
Yeah.
for how everybody is feeling, but with Grain's help, this second survey goes into a little bit more depth. It really breaks down to try to understand the users and their
I love that.
concepts,
I love
lot
that.
size,
Yeah.
you know. It's more, it's a little bit more pointed, and I think Brand will be able to pull even more from that than the.
Could you send it as a PDF to your mailing list for the dog association?
I don't have it yet, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, when it's ready.
But certainly the link to it, because I think it's gonna be an online.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you'll put it in the newsletter.
Yeah. The community board's newsletter on our website, MailChimp, the whole.
Yeah, but I think in your communication with the survey is to anticipate the point that Jill is raising, which is some people may think, oh, I've already done a survey, I don't need to look at this one, so explain why it's different and worthwhile for, as a follow-up, from the town, however you want to characterize it, so that people don't just ignore it thinking they've already done it. All right, well, this is good. Any other questions? Do we have any other hands?
I'll leave you guys with a fun fact that the principal at Grain, who's even 10 years my senior, at his first job in New York was drafting Palsky Park dog run.
Oh.
So funny. Yeah.
Sydney Nielsen.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
He's like, I remember all the research we did on choosing the colors and, yeah, so it comes full circle, still in good hands. You know, don't give out cards anymore. It's kind of like, you know.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Great haired lady.
Well, she did the kids' play area there on Kowski Plaza.
Oh,
Yeah.
the new playground?
Not me, Digny Nielsen.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Yeah.
Like Grand Collective. It sounds like Grow Leaf.
It's the idea that everyone in our office is part of like bringing the bigger picture together. Like we need the grains of sand and everything to create like the bigger idea. We're all equally voiced.
I like that.
I like that a lot. You guys, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, thank you for making the time for us tonight.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you guys don't need us, we might slip out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Need to sit
You
through
can actually
everything.
just leave. If we can get the cleanup guys to come to dog run, like midday or,
I'll get to one.
Yeah, yeah.
We're there, but I'll let her know specifically.
I
yeah.
know right now, once temperatures are above freezing, everything's gonna be coming out with them too, so.
Yeah, I think that's probably the problem because we
Yeah.
freezing.
Right.
Yeah,
So people are cleaning it up themselves.
yeah, Parks and Rec, so we're at
Hey,
that
Katie, I think you're up
Yeah.
next.
The dead bird thing bothered me because of the
Thank you,
dirt.
Larry. We had it out there then.
Well, no, there's one behind the flower box in the park,
We did it. Okay.
it's Leo's father, Leo
Jill,
the dog.
we're on the next item.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you for being so responsive.
Here with an update on the South Battery Park City Resiliency Project. Right now, our current work sites. So the project is slated for completion this year. Wagner Park and the Pavilion are projected to open in summer 2025. And we'll have some more photos of that ongoing work, so you can see how the progress is coming along. In spring 2025, one thing that I do want to flag is that near surface isolation work is going to be taking place on West Street. And you can see this photo from one of our South Battery Park City Resiliency projects, the early PDF that kind of signifies where that work is going. You can see here, we've marked the tie-gate chambers on Vector Place, First Place, and in the battery are clearly indicated, as well as some of our isolation valves. That near surface isolation work is going to be happening along West Street. And when I present again in early April, I'll have some more concrete plans, and I'll be able to tell you kind of what that work is going to look like. Right now, our project team is working closely with NYC DOT and other city agencies to plan the best and most efficient way of doing that work on West Street. Now, near surface isolation work means things like pressure proofing manholes, missing elements of the sewer system that are kind of close to that surface level, so that we can make sure that that's, flood proof and weather resistant going forward.
The interior drainage concept and portion of the work, so it's not just the storm surge, it's what happens to the water system, just sit, how do you drain it in the interior?
Yes, that'll be happening after April's presentation, but I will have more information for you later on as well. So we're watching that closely. So with our current work in Battery, we're dealing with installations of flood wall around the Museum of Jewish Heritage, First Place, and in Wagner Park. The new pavilion building construction is coming along well. I'll have some photos that'll show you. This image right here kind of breaks down sort of the work that we're doing. You can see with the installation of site utilities, more concrete structures, and that ongoing work. So here you can see this is the flood wall construction going on in the Battery. The new pavilion superstructure, and again, this is stuff that you'll see this summer, and that you're finally able to kind of see rising above the construction site walls. Here's the flood wall installation at the Museum of Jewish Heritage. And then paver installation in Wagner Park. Again, it's progressing nicely. We're ready to go, and we're excited to kind of update you on this as it gets closer and closer to completion. Now, the big thing that I wanted to talk about is the tide gate installation at Rector Place. One of the joys of living in and working in such a historic neighborhood is that sometimes the projection beneath the ground, the reality is different than what our drawings indicate for us. So when we opened up the ground to install this tide gate, we realized that there were sewer lines, old seawalls, some steel that was not indicated. So we had to do some quick kind of reconstruction. So that kind of delayed the dewatering, which is the process of water out, which means that our work is kicked back. We thought we were going to be done by the end of January. Now it's looking like mid-March. The important thing that I know a lot of folks in Rector Place are really interested in is that access to the parking lane on the north side of Rector Place. And we're working quickly and efficiently so that we'll be able to reinstate that by the end of February. And again, as soon as I have kind of a concrete end date and more information, I'll be out there again visiting the residents on Rector Place with kind of additional information. Trust me, I'm very excited to kind of turn that back over to the residents. And again, this work happens during the daytime, weekdays between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m., barring any emergencies or unanticipated circumstances. And when those emergencies do arise, we reach out directly to the buildings on Rector Place to make sure that they're aware. And then it's the bulk of the completed work has been done. So that's the noisy work that you heard back in the fall of demolishing the existing concrete slab and planters, setting up the dewatering system, and then kind of the beginning of installing the tide gate. But right now we're wrapping that up as quickly as possible. All right, and then as always, you can call me, that's the 24/7 hotline, or you can email us at outreach@southbpcresiliency.com. Happy to take any kind of questions, concerns, recommendations, complaints that people might have.
I see, Justine, you have your hand up.
Thanks so much. Just a quick question. Thanks so much, Katie, for that report. I know folks at 377 Liberty House have been like just up in arms saying, please get out of there, finish it. Do you think March is a realistic date? Sometime by March, or do you think that you might find more stuff, or you just don't know?
Right now, the biggest thing was that at the beginning, when you first open up, after we've removed the concrete and have opened up the ground, that's where, I'm sorry, I'm never sure. I'm looking up where it is. I'm saying,
Yeah, no, it's okay. I can see you.
When we opened up the ground, that's kind of where we discovered, remnants of the old seawall, steel kind of subsurfacing, and the sewer line. We were able to work around that, but that kind of caused the delay. So right now we've installed we're working on wrapping up the installation of the tide gate and then the site restoration. So barring any more extenuating circumstances, we're confident that mid-March will be kind of the wrap up of that work. There's obviously still some work on reinstalling kind of foliage, maybe some pavers and the usual landscaping niceties, but access to the Esplanade and that important parking lane on the north side of Vector Place. We're confident that we can get that done by the end of February.
Yeah, people may shoot me with this sentence that I'm going to say now, but considering that we're doing the Northwest Resiliency Project soon-ish, right? We probably don't want to spend a whole heck of a lot of time and money on plantings and stuff like that. Although, do we? I mean, it's going to all get ripped up eventually, so that's something to think about too. I mean, I guess get it. Maybe we should do a temperature check of people in the neighborhood and what the time frame is going to be, Nick, just to get a sense of it. How much cosmetic stuff you do.
It's a really good question. Probably something we want to maybe slate for a conversation in the next month or so. We're trying to kind of, we're trying to kind of pull various strings together. But I think you make a good point, right? We don't want to put a ton into it, only then have to in a couple of years' time redo it for Northwest. But we also don't want it to just be like a hardscape kind of barren nothing.
Right, because I think it very well could be 2
Right,
years.
because we also want to make sure that it is kind of livable and fits roughly within what the scope and aesthetic of Battery Park City is. So I think there's a midpoint there that we can kind of hit the sweet spot on. What we usually do in the spring, as you recall, Jeff and Zach and others, is Ryan Torres, who's the vice president of Parks Operations, usually comes and gives like a spring preview.
Yeah.
Around the April timeframe. I will see with her, maybe she can come in March or April, but in that window, and she may be able to speak a little bit about what they're thinking for that space. Again, where it's, not nothing, but not too much where it's so built up that then has to be invested only to be then torn up again. Yeah, but it's a good point. We don't want to leave it barren, but we don't want to put too much into it.
Yeah, I don't remember the construction schedule for Northwest, but I don't believe that section is the first to go under the shovel. Although I may be misremembering, but I know it starts in the south and kind of progressively goes north along the
Yes.
there. So we may be talking about, an additional year from the start of Northwest before that area is even touched.
Right, you want it to look somewhat, like the rest of that Park City looks and feels.
Exactly, but just keeping that in mind makes sense. And like I said, I'll probably be shot for saying that, but hey.
Good point.
So is the seawall gonna be an added feature with the new, the old one? I mean, is there a way? Just gonna delay every section you're doing, in other words, is there a way for you to find
I
out?
mean, the seawall they found underneath.
The seawall and other pipes and strange wreckage, is there a way to check that before you start?
And it's a very good
Oh, you're
question.
talking about
We
the
rely-
Northwest Fork.
I'm talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the reason this is being delayed,
Right.
is because of the stuff
Right.
that they found, that wasn't
And that,
on the, whatever map.
yes, and I'm sure anybody online who was who lived over by Battery Place can remember some of that night work as well, where we were opening up, trying to relocate utilities.
Right, so is there a way, even some sort of surveying technique or something?
Well,
Now
I think
that you
that's
know.
what the coring project is.
Yeah, but they
whatever you
didn't
call it.
have it for this.
No, they didn't have it for that, but that is,
Yeah.
Are you doing that now?
Yeah.
And you didn't do it on this part? Is that?
Well, over the past couple of years, since end of 21, 22 or so, there's been a series of what we call kind of geotechnical sampling projects.
Yeah,
that we
yeah,
do
no, I'm aware of that.
Kind of drill to get subsurface conditions. We want to make sure that you are understanding what's underground, but also then not building it, you're not over-engineering, you're making it strong enough to hold what's there, but not putting too much. In this particular area, I don't think we're in that particular
The
corner
one
of the
area that
Esplanade.
you didn't bore, but you're boring in the other areas.
Well, we're boring at various sites throughout the site. We're not going underground at the entire length of what the Northwest will be, because that's over a mile
You
of.
know, you have is this the first
Right.
one of these? So now that you know you've got an old seawall, does that change your construction plan? I mean, timing and
We're only working, like this, work on Rector Place is a part of, the South Battery Park
Yeah.
City Resiliency Project. This is one tiny portion, and we're only working on that, I believe as a result of,
But you're gonna be
FEMA
picking
funding.
things up.
Not heard of.
No.
Oh, not you. Okay, unfortunately, I,
Yeah.
okay, all right, this is.
This is, yeah.
It's.
It's okay.
Well, it's easier to sort of-
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah, I'm just thinking, there's a
No,
lot,
that's a good
there's a
point,
lot of
though.
monsters here, and they're,
What is being communicated to the North Project.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
a fair question. What I've learned in my years here is that you will get the best estimate you can based on what you know. Oftentimes you'll open up the ground and you'll see things that, for instance, haven't been indicated on the drawings that are available.
Yeah.
But yes, we are talking and we'll make sure that we're trying to back that into what the overall construction schedule is. And when there are changes, we want to make sure that we let you guys know as early as we can. Even if it's sometimes, I know, frustrating for me not to be able to have all the answers yet. We'd rather be able to say, hey, it's something here, it's gonna extend the schedule, we'll let you know.
well, if you know in advance and you can move it
Right.
like
And you
3
can move it.
inches and
Right.
then not have to redo all the pipes, that would certainly make sense.
Fair point.
Okay, any more questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Katie, thank you.
Okay, so let's see, I guess Pat is up for the security report.
I just
If
felt
there's
like
anything
the
left to
cat, the cat is already.
Yeah, Jack is at the bottom of my report as usual. Not a ton there, but I don't want to steal Pat's thunder.
I'm not sitting in that.
His big news was the two summonses that got people with the dogs off leash. Right.
You locked them in the park, you closed the gate.
I think it's only that usually sometimes, Zach, I go into like 13 pages. It's not that much. It's only 6 pages this month.
There we go.
There you go.
There you go. So you can see graffiti, we had none for this past month. Last year we had 13. For the homeless interaction, we had 14.
It's done up.
Okay, that's definitely gone up. Last year we only had 5. Lost and found properties, 1. So that's normal. Park rules, that's gone down. We've only had 3 park rules reports, last month. Last year we had 5. Vendors, we're at 0. The dogs, we've got 3 reports this month. Last year we only had 1. So like I said, you know, it was just back a short time and it was like, okay, back a week, so here we go. And all the emails started coming in, so Nick had shot me an email about a certain resident, about dogs in the area, and I put it to the SPOs, and he ended up writing 2 tickets. So, hopefully,
Where was that? Which part?
that was Rector Park. Okay, so, you know, the issue was, of course, all dogs like to play in the snow.
Yeah.
So when we had that little bit of snowfall, that's when the dogs were out there. And that was the pictures that we got in a time frame. So, you know,
Cut them a break in the snow.
Really? I'm like, come on.
well, there's also snow when the dogs are out, you know.
That's right.
Or go across the West Street.
Okay, Jim,
Okay.
I will bring this home for you briefly if you just want to run through it, if that's okay, the committee. Oh, wow, look at this. All these years I've never been actually able to do this. This is awesome. All right. Okay. So good evening, everyone. It's just a great picture of one of the main events we had in the first ever winter calendar, all of which you now have a nice, beautiful hard copy of. It's been a while since I've been able to drop this off here. That's at our STEM Queen event, February 1st, and that's, as you know, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that was STEM Queen Jacqueline Means, and she did a great program there for the children at 6 River Terrace. That's just the cover image. A couple of things I wanted to update you all on, some of which we touched on tonight.
We talked about South Battery Park City Resiliency Project. Katie, thank you for the bi-monthly update. Rector Gate, we covered. We talked about in one of our prior meetings, the Wagner Park Food and Beverage RFP. I want to let everyone know that we have received multiple responses to the RFP. So, whereas last time we ended up pulling back before it had reached its maturity date, and we wanted to make sure we kind of craft it a little bit more optimally and did some more concentrated outreach. We have multiple responses. And we'll be back to the committee to update you in a few months' time. I'll work out the exact time with Zach, but we are excited that we think we'll have a nice quality food and beverage place in the new pavilion. Northwest, we didn't talk too much about, but the upcoming milestones, as we know, is I believe the LMCR quarterly update will be in March. That's at the EPC committee. I did want to flag for you all that we were tracking initially to have the FEIS published in January. Through our course of our coordination with city and state agencies, they determined that some additional traffic analysis is going to be required for the crossing of Route 9A and West Street. So what that means practically is a few months delay on the publication of the FEIS. We're looking now at the spring. Once that is published, then obviously have to be made public, reviewed and approved by our board. But we will also be back to CB1 to review the FAS kind of a summary of findings. So I don't think we're going to go through I don't know, Jeff, what is it, 80,000 pages, but we will do a summary for the community.
We'll only go through 50,000.
Yeah, we'll have a summary presentation for the community board at a date TBD, late springish probably in that timeframe. Okay, and just some quick updates here in terms of programming, but right up top, as promised, happy to report that the Battery Park City Ball Field, the padding replacement is still on schedule to be completed for April. You'll see that work starting the next month or so. It doesn't take that long to do. The longest part of the project, as I understand it, is actually not the placing of the pads, it's the fabricating of the pads, because each one of them is shaped specifically and fabricated before it arrives here. But that's on track to be done as I sit here by the time we get to opening day for April. I want to make sure that is done for the kids. If there are any changes in that schedule, I will let you know when I know. The larger of the two projects is the turf replacement, which, as you recall, we discussed. That will be done next winter, but the solicitation has been issued. That's on our website as well, with the responses due at the end of this month. So we are significantly well ahead of where we were last year. The solicitation's already out for work to happen this December and next January, in the off season between when the permits end in the fall and when the Little League starts in April of 26. And then just a few events coming up. As you know, the winter program is here, the art exhibition. We had the opening a couple of weeks ago. It is on our website for people to view. And then it's available on view in person at 6 River Terrace Wednesdays through the end of the month. And then we have our Valentine's Day American Workshop this Sunday for the kids, or anyone else really who wants to attend. Latin American Film Series and New York Laughs, which I know Becky is very excited about. That's really fun. Black History Month, that's going to be on Thursday, the 20th. So those things are coming up. And then the last thing I had here was just some kind of standing notices. We know the scam alert, don't give your phone, folks who you don't know. That's as per our partners at the First Precinct. At Free Lawns, as a reminder, Pat, I know he missed that. Happy to report on what he had to tonight. And we always have a community reminder about homeless assistance, what to do if you see a person who is experiencing homelessness, and some of the resources we have, including shelters, drop-in centers, and the Pathway Home Program. All of that is linked there to the report. That was it. We have our board meeting dates there. And of course, as we always do, our Allied Universal Command Center hotline right up top with the address and the phone number. I will add, I was reminded here as we were sitting some months ago, we did it relatively quickly, but this was also at the request of Clint Plummer, one of our new board members. If you go to our website, and I can send you guys the link, but right along the top under where it says residents, There's a drop-down menu and there's a BPC, there's a public safety page that we've launched. And that specifically, I think I had this in some of the earlier reports, that specifically has information about not only your neighborhood coordination officers from First Precinct, but also the Allied Universal information, the hotline number and the email and the physical address. So that's there as well. And that was that. 8:20.
That's great.
Well done.
Questions on
Yeah.
the next report? Thank you, guys. Any questions, anybody online? Sitting here, straight.
And if you like the new kind of landscape format as opposed to the old, that's a Zach Bomber innovation. I want to give credit.
Like it.
Take full advantage of the screen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fits the screen better when it's landscape.
I will say that whoever does your film picks always comes up with really interesting, great films. I've never actually
Oh, really?
watched one of them, but I wanted to.
Thank you. That's Peter Campbell works in the program department. He's great. He's really built a very kind of dedicated fan base.
Yeah, I mean, they're.
Yes.
They're interesting, they're not like,
People who really know and love
right, they're
film.
not dumbed down.
No, it's really built.
I have gone many times. I've gone many times and we have great discussions after the
See you.
films are over.
Yeah,
So it's
nothing against,
We have,
nothing
happy to hear
against
that.
Jackson, but it's nice to have you back.
yes, Pat, you hear that?
I hope you heard me. I'm sorry.
Welcome back.
It's nice to be back.
That is nice. All right, everybody. This concludes the meeting. Okay,
All right,
thank you.
good.
Oh. Eric, I may call on you on notes too.